the path to unshakable inner strength. Let me ask you something. How many times have you felt like life is just one endless battle? You work hard, you try to do your best, yet somehow stress, negativity, and frustration still find their way into your mind. One small comment from someone can ruin your whole day. One unexpected problem can make everything feel like it's falling apart. You tell yourself to stay calm, to not let it get to you, but deep down, you feel like you have no control. But what if I told you there's a way to change that? A way to build a mindset so strong that nothing, no criticism, no failure, no stress, can shake your inner peace? Imagine being able to walk through life unshaken, no matter what happens. No more overreacting. No more sleepless nights replaying conversations in your head. No more feeling powerless against your own emotions. This isn't just some fantasy. It's a skill, one that can be learned, practiced, and mastered. And the secret to it has been known for over 2,500 years. The Buddha didn't just teach about suffering. He taught about how to overcome it. He understood the mind better than anyone, and his teachings reveal how to develop unshakable inner strength. The kind of strength that makes you untouchable to negativity, fearless in the face of uncertainty, and completely in control of your emotional world. Over the next few moments, we're going to dive deep into 10 powerful Buddhist principles that will completely change the way you experience life. These aren't just ideas. They are actionable, practical insights that will help you stop overthinking, master your emotions, and find peace no matter what's happening around you. So, if you're tired of being controlled by stress, if you're ready to stop letting negativity drain your energy, and if you truly want to become the strongest version of yourself, then keep watching. Because what you're about to learn could change everything. Firm purposes, the foundation of resilience. What if I told you that most of the stress and uncertainty in life don't come from the problems you face, but from not knowing what you truly stand for? Imagine a ship sailing without a destination. It drifts wherever the waves take it, at the mercy of the wind and tides. It never reaches a meaningful destination because it has no course to follow. Now, imagine a different ship, one with a clear destination, a strong captain, and an unshakable resolve. No matter how stormy the seas get, no matter how strong the wind blows, it stays on course. This is the difference between a person with a firm purpose and a person without one. Most people go through life like that first ship, drifting, reacting, hoping things will fall into place. Without a strong purpose, it's easy to feel lost, easily influenced by other people's opinions, and overwhelmed when challenges arise. But those who have a clear purpose, who know exactly what matters to them, become resilient. They don't crumble under pressure. They don't get discouraged by setbacks. They don't waste time chasing things that don't align with their values. Their purpose gives them a foundation so strong that nothing can shake them. Take Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. In his book Man's Search for Meaning, he describes how those who survived the horrors of the concentration camps weren't necessarily the strongest or the healthiest. They were the ones who had a deep sense of purpose, something to live for beyond their suffering. He wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." His research later confirmed that a strong sense of purpose increases resilience, reduces stress, and even improves mental and physical health. Buddhism has taught this for over 2,500 years. The Buddha once said, "Your work is to discover your work, and then with all your heart to give yourself to it." He understood that when you find your true purpose, your reason for being, you unlock an inner strength that allows you to endure anything. Purpose gives you clarity, direction, and most importantly, resilience. When you know why you are walking a certain path, you don't quit when the road gets rough. You keep going because you know exactly what you're fighting for. But how do you find your purpose? How do you create that unshakable foundation? Here's something simple yet powerful. Every morning, take a moment to ask yourself, what truly matters to me? What do I stand for? Write it down. Reflect on it. Let it guide your decisions. Research shows that even a few minutes of purpose-driven reflection each day strengthens resilience and reduces stress. There is a famous Japanese concept called ikigai, which translates to reason for being. It is the intersection of four things: what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, what you can be rewarded for. When you align your life with these four things, you wake up every day with clarity. Challenges become stepping stones rather than obstacles. Failures become lessons rather than defeats. You no longer feel lost because you know exactly where you're going. No one can hand you your purpose. It's something you must discover, refine, and commit to. But once you do, you will find that no storm, no obstacle, no external force can shake your inner stability. This is the foundation of resilience. Not being immune to difficulties, but being so deeply rooted in your purpose that nothing can break you. Becoming untouchable. Mastering emotional detachment. Have you ever seen someone get completely destroyed by a single comment? Maybe it was a friend who let one bad review ruin their entire business. Or maybe it was someone famous whose career spiraled out of control after a wave of online hate. We live in a world where people's emotions are constantly being hijacked by others, by criticism, by negativity, by the chaos of the world around them. But here's the truth: no one can hurt you unless you let them. No one's words, opinions, or actions have the power to control your emotions unless you give them that power. This is the secret of emotional detachment. And once you master it, you become untouchable. Most people believe their emotions are dictated by what happens to them. If someone insults them, they feel hurt. If they get rejected, they feel unworthy. If something doesn't go their way, they spiral into frustration. But the real cause of suffering isn't what happens. It's how we respond to what happens. Imagine two athletes. One loses a game and sees it as a failure. The other loses the same game, but sees it as motivation to train harder. Same event, different outcome. The difference? One person is ruled by emotions. The other has learned to master them. The Buddha understood this deeply. He once told a story about a man who came to insult him. Instead of reacting with anger, the Buddha simply smiled and asked, "If someone offers you a gift, but you refuse to take it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man, confused, answered, "To the one who offered it." The Buddha nodded and said, "Then why should I accept your insults?" This is emotional detachment at its highest level. The ability to let negativity pass through you without absorbing it. Modern psychology supports this idea. Dr. Viktor E. Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response." Studies in neuroscience confirm this. The human brain is wired to react emotionally, but we can train ourselves to pause, observe, and choose a response that serves us rather than controls us. One way to do this is through cognitive reframing, changing the way we interpret situations. Instead of thinking, "This person disrespected me, and that means I'm not valued," you can reframe it. "This person's behavior reflects their struggles, not my worth." Another method is the 10-second rule. Whenever something upsets you, take 10 seconds before reacting. This small pause creates space for logic to override emotion, preventing impulsive reactions you might regret. Emotional detachment doesn't mean suppressing feelings or becoming numb. It means choosing where to invest your emotional energy. It means recognizing that not every battle is worth fighting, not every insult is worth responding to, and not every setback defines your worth. When you master this, you don't just gain control over your emotions, you gain control over your life. So, the next time someone tries to push your buttons, remember, You have the power to decide whether or not to let them. True strength isn't about winning every fight. It's about knowing which fights are worth your time. And when you stop letting the world dictate your emotions, you become truly free. Handling insults and offense, turning negativity into strength. Think back to the last time someone insulted you. Maybe it was a rude comment from a coworker, a snide remark from a friend, or even a complete stranger on the internet who had something negative to say about you. How did it make you feel? Did you carry that insult with you for hours, replaying it in your mind? Did it make you doubt yourself? If so, you're not alone. Most people let the words of others dictate how they feel. But what if I told you that you could train your mind to be completely unaffected by insults? Not by ignoring them, not by pretending they don't exist, but by transforming them into a source of strength. Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest boxers in history, was a master at handling insults. He was constantly mocked, doubted, and even ridiculed before fights, by the media, and even by the public. But instead of letting those words break him, he used them as fuel. When people called him arrogant, he doubled down on his confidence. When they said he wasn't good enough, he worked even harder. Every insult thrown at him became another reason to prove himself. He once said, "I am the greatest. I said that even before I knew I was." His mindset wasn't just about ignoring negativity. It was about transforming it into power. This idea isn't just about self-confidence. It's a fundamental teaching in Buddhism. The Buddha once said, "Just as a solid rock is not shaken by the wind, so the wise are not shaken by praise or blame." True strength is found in emotional stability, in the ability to stand firm regardless of what others say. When someone insults you, they are offering you something. But just like an unwanted gift, you have the power to refuse it. Psychology confirms this. Dr. Brené Brown, a leading researcher on vulnerability and shame, explains that insults only hurt when they touch on something we already feel insecure about. If someone insults you in a way that doesn't match your self-perception, you brush it off easily. But if they touch on a hidden doubt or insecurity, it feels personal. That's why the key to handling insults isn't about fighting back or proving people wrong. It's about building a mindset so strong that their words no longer define you. One powerful way to do this is through the reframe technique. Instead of seeing an insult as an attack, see it as information. If someone says, "You'll never succeed," instead of feeling defeated, ask yourself, "Is this true? Does this opinion actually define my potential?" More often than not, the answer is no. By reframing insults as external noise rather than personal truth, you strip them of their power. Another powerful method is the psychological distance rule. When someone insults you, imagine that they are speaking to someone else, not you. Studies show that when we detach from personal attacks and view them as an outsider, their emotional impact weakens significantly. This is why advice is always easier to give than to take, because when we are not emotionally attached, we see things more rationally. A modern example of this is in sports. Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, was known for his Mamba mentality, an unshakable mindset that refused to be affected by criticism or doubt. He was called selfish, arrogant, even washed up at times. But instead of letting it break him, he embraced the negativity. He once said, "Everything negative, pressure, challenges, is all an opportunity for me to rise." This is the key to mastering emotional detachment, not just ignoring insults, but using them as opportunities for growth. Handling insults doesn't mean you have to like them, and it certainly doesn't mean you accept disrespect, but it does mean you choose how to react. The moment you let someone's words dictate how you feel, you've given them power over you. Instead, reclaim that power by recognizing that their words are reflections of them, not you. The next time someone insults you, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, "Do I really need to accept this?" Then move forward with confidence, knowing that true strength is not found in fighting every battle. It's found in knowing which battles aren't worth your time. Dealing with negative talk, protecting your inner peace. In 2016, an unknown basketball player named Fred VanVleet stood in front of the cameras on NBA draft night. He had trained for years, sacrificed everything, and poured his heart into the game. But as the night went on, his name was never called. Not a single team wanted him. The world told him he wasn't good enough. The critics said he was too small, too slow, not talented enough. But instead of letting their words define him, he chose a different response. He tweeted just 3 words: bet on yourself. Fast forward a few years, and that same undrafted player led the Toronto Raptors to an NBA championship. He signed a multi-million-dollar contract and proved every critic wrong. Not by arguing, not by defending himself, but by letting his success speak for itself. Negative talk is inevitable. It comes from strangers on the internet, coworkers at the office, even from friends and family who don't see your potential. It's easy to let those voices sink into your mind, to start doubting yourself, to feel the need to explain, argue, or prove them wrong. But Buddhism teaches a powerful lesson. You do not have to accept the negativity that is thrown at you. The Buddha once said, "If someone gives you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does it belong?" This is the essence of true emotional freedom. Just because someone offers you negativity does not mean you have to take it. Psychology confirms this truth. Dr. Ethan Kross, a leading researcher on emotional control, discovered that when we engage with negative talk, when we overthink it, replay it in our minds, or try to fight it, our stress levels skyrocket. But when we learn to observe negativity without absorbing it, our mental health improves dramatically. This is called psychological distancing, and it is one of the most effective ways to protect inner peace. A powerful way to implement this is through the noise test. Before reacting to criticism, ask yourself, is this coming from someone I truly respect? Does this feedback help me grow, or is it just noise? If I ignore this, will it matter in 5 years? Most of the time, the answer will be no, because most negative talk is just background noise. And the more you ignore it, the quieter it becomes. A perfect example of this is Oprah Winfrey. Throughout her career, she has been criticized about her weight, her background, even her intelligence. But she once said, "Turn your wounds into wisdom." Instead of letting negativity break her, she used it as fuel. She didn't waste time arguing with critics. She focused on becoming the best version of herself. And in the end, that's what silenced the doubters. Another technique to handle negativity is the shield method. Visualize a protective barrier around your mind, where words can hit but not sink in. Every time you hear something negative, imagine it bouncing off that shield, unable to penetrate your inner peace. This simple mental exercise has been proven to reduce stress and build confidence over time. But what if the negativity comes from someone you love? A parent, a mentor, a friend? These words can hurt the most. In these cases, use the filter rule. Instead of reacting emotionally, analyze their words. Is there truth in what they are saying? Are they speaking from love or from their own fear and insecurities? If a stranger said the same thing, would it still bother me? By questioning the validity of the criticism, you take away its emotional power. You shift from reacting to reflecting. And in that space, you regain control. At the end of the day, protecting your inner peace is not about ignoring the world. It's about choosing what deserves your attention. The next time someone speaks negatively about you, remember, you do not have to accept their words. You do not have to let them in. Instead, stay focused on your path, on your goals, on the truth of who you are. Because in the end, the loudest voices will never be those of the critics. The loudest voice will be the one inside you. Make sure it speaks words of strength, confidence, and peace. Guarding your mind. Cultivating a positive mental landscape. There's a famous study about Olympic athletes. Researchers found that what separates gold medalists from everyone else isn't just their physical ability, it's their mental conditioning. The best athletes in the world don't just train their bodies, they train their minds. They guard their thoughts with discipline, making sure that doubt, fear, and negativity never take root. Because they understand one simple truth: your mind is either your greatest asset or your greatest enemy. If you don't protect it, the world will fill it with distractions, negativity, and self-doubt. Think about your own life. How often do you find yourself consumed by worry, stress, or negative thoughts? Maybe it's a news headline that makes you anxious. Maybe it's a critical comment that stays in your mind for days. Maybe it's the endless stream of negativity on social media that leaves you feeling drained. The truth is, most people don't actively guard their minds. They let anything in: bad news, toxic opinions, self-doubt, without realizing how much damage it causes. But just as you wouldn't let a stranger walk into your home and destroy everything, you shouldn't let toxic thoughts enter your mind unchecked. The Buddha understood this over 2,500 years ago. He once said, "Rule your mind, or it will rule you." Your thoughts shape your emotions, your decisions, and ultimately, your reality. If your mind is constantly filled with worry, your life will feel overwhelming. If it's filled with gratitude and optimism, your life will reflect that too. Science supports this. Dr. Carol Dweck, a leading psychologist, discovered that people with a growth mindset, those who believe they can improve and overcome challenges, experience greater success and resilience than those with a fixed mindset, who see obstacles as permanent barriers. The thoughts you allow to take root in your mind determine how you navigate life. One of the most effective ways to guard your mind is the mental filter technique, a strategy used by top performers, from elite athletes to CEOs. Imagine your mind as a nightclub with a bouncer at the door. That bouncer decides who gets in and who doesn't. Negative, self-destructive thoughts? They don't make the list. Thoughts that fuel growth, confidence, and success? Those are VIP. Every time a thought enters your mind, ask yourself, does this serve me? If not, let it go. Over time, this practice rewires your brain, making it more resistant to negativity. Another powerful method is cognitive detoxing, consciously reducing exposure to negative mental inputs. Think about the information you consume daily. The news, social media, conversations with certain people, are they filling your mind with stress and fear, or with ideas and inspiration? Just like you wouldn't eat junk food all day and expect to be healthy, you can't consume mental junk and expect to have a strong, positive mindset. Warren Buffett follows this principle religiously. He once said, "The most important investment you can make is in yourself, and part of that investment is protecting what enters your mind." Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, lived by this principle. He called it the Mamba mentality, a mindset built on extreme focus and mental discipline. When reporters asked him how he stayed so composed under pressure, he said, "I don't entertain doubt. I don't let negative thoughts stay in my mind. The moment they appear, I replace them with something productive." This is the essence of guarding your mind, not just avoiding negativity, but actively filling your mental space with thoughts that empower you. So how do you apply this in daily life? Start with the 1-minute rule. Whenever a negative thought enters your mind, give yourself 1 minute to address it. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me? If not, replace it with something better. Over time, this trains your mind to instinctively shift toward positivity instead of negativity. Guarding your mind isn't about ignoring reality or pretending that life is always positive. It's about choosing what you allow to shape your inner world. The next time you catch yourself spiraling into negativity, pause. Remind yourself, you are the gatekeeper of your mind. You decide what stays and what goes. And when you make that decision consciously, You create a life that is not only more peaceful, but also more powerful. Overcoming fear and shame. Breaking free from mental chains. In 1997, at the Masters golf tournament, Tiger Woods stunned the world. At just 21 years old, he became the youngest golfer in history to win the tournament. But what most people didn't know was the immense pressure and doubt he faced leading up to that moment. As a child, he had been mocked for being a black athlete in a predominantly white sport. As a teenager, he was told he wasn't strong enough, skilled enough, or experienced enough to compete at the highest level. Fear and shame could have crushed him, but instead, he used them as fuel. He once said, "The greatest thing about tomorrow is, I will be better than I am today." Fear and shame are two of the most powerful forces that keep people stuck. Fear whispers, "You're not ready." Shame adds, "And even if you were, you're not good enough." Maybe you've felt this before. The fear of failing, the shame of past mistakes, the constant replay of moments that make you feel unworthy. But here's the truth. Fear and shame only have power if you listen to them. And once you learn to break free from these mental chains, nothing can hold you back. Buddhism teaches that fear and shame are illusions created by the mind. The Buddha once said, "Do not dwell on the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." Fear only exists when we project ourselves into a future where we fail. Shame lingers when we remain trapped in a past we cannot change. But both emotions lose their power when we return to the present. When you fully engage with the here and now, fear becomes preparation and shame becomes wisdom. Modern psychology supports this. Dr. Carol Dweck, a leading psychologist on mindset, discovered that people with a growth mindset, those who see failure as part of learning, are far more successful and resilient than those with a fixed mindset, who believe failure is permanent. The difference isn't intelligence or talent. It's how they interpret setbacks. When you change your perspective on failure, fear and shame lose their grip on you. One of the most effective ways to overcome fear and shame is the exposure ladder technique, gradually facing what scares you in small, manageable steps. Neuroscientific research shows that avoidance strengthens fear, while controlled exposure weakens it. If public speaking terrifies you, don't start by giving a speech to 1,000 people. Start by practicing alone, then with a friend, then with a small group. The more you expose yourself to what you fear, the more your brain learns that it's not as dangerous as it seems. Another technique is rewriting your narrative. Instead of seeing your past mistakes and failures as proof that you are unworthy, see them as training. Every great leader, every world-class athlete, every successful person has failed. Many, many times. But what sets them apart is that they don't let failure define them. Michael Jordan, often regarded as the greatest basketball player of all time, famously said, "I have failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." His missed shots, his losses, his setbacks, they weren't signs of inadequacy. They were stepping stones. A powerful real-world example of overcoming shame is J.K. Rowling. Before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon, she was a struggling single mother, rejected by 12 publishers. She could have let that rejection confirm her deepest fears, that she wasn't good enough, that she would never make it. But instead, she kept going. She later said, "Rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life." This is the key to breaking free, not pretending your past didn't happen, but choosing to turn it into something powerful instead of something painful. Fear and shame do not disappear overnight, but every time you challenge them, their grip weakens. The next time fear tells you that you can't do something, do it anyway. The next time shame tries to remind you of who you used to be, remind yourself that you are no longer that person. The chains that once held you are only as strong as your belief in them. And once you stop believing in them, you are free. seeing everyone as a teacher, transforming life's challenges into lessons. In 2010, a young NBA player had just entered the league with immense talent but little discipline. He was arrogant, unwilling to listen, and believed he had nothing to learn from his teammates. But there was one veteran player on his team, an aging superstar near the end of his career, who constantly challenged him. He pushed him harder in practice, criticized his decisions on the court, and never let him take the easy way out. At first, the young player resented him. He thought, "Why is this guy always on my back?" But over time, he realized that the veteran wasn't trying to break him. He was trying to shape him. That young player was Kobe Bryant, and the veteran was Michael Jordan. Bryant later credited Jordan as one of his greatest teachers, not because he was always kind to him, but because he forced him to grow. Imagine if you approached life the same way. Instead of seeing difficult people as obstacles, you saw them as instructors. Instead of taking offense when someone criticizes you, you used it as an opportunity for growth. Buddhism teaches that everyone we meet, whether friend or enemy, has something to teach us. The Buddha once said, "Your worst enemy can be your best teacher." That means that the people who frustrate you the most may be the ones who reveal the most about yourself. The question is, are you willing to learn? Psychology confirms this. Dr. Carol Dweck, a leading researcher on mindset, found that people with a growth mindset, those who see every challenge as a learning opportunity, are far more successful and emotionally resilient than those with a fixed mindset, who believe setbacks are personal failures. Her research shows that people who embrace life's difficulties as lessons rather than obstacles experience lower stress levels, greater confidence, and a higher ability to handle adversity. This means that the more you see others as teachers, the more control you gain over your own growth. One of the most powerful ways to implement this is through the reflection principle, understanding that our strongest emotional reactions to others often reveal something about ourselves. If someone's arrogance frustrates you, it may be an invitation to examine your own relationship with confidence. If someone's criticism makes you defensive, it may be an opportunity to strengthen your self-esteem. The people who trigger us the most are often showing us the areas we need to work on. This doesn't mean we have to agree with or accept every criticism, but it does mean that every interaction, good or bad, can be used for self-improvement. A modern example of this is Jeff Bezos. Early in his career, Amazon was seen as a struggling online bookstore. He was ridiculed by Wall Street, dismissed by competitors, and even some of his own employees doubted his vision. But instead of reacting with anger, he studied his critics. He used their skepticism to refine his business strategy, learning from their doubts rather than being destroyed by them. Today, Amazon is one of the most powerful companies in the world, and Bezos credits much of its success to listening, not to the praise, but to the criticism. The ability to see everyone as a teacher doesn't mean tolerating toxic behavior. It means taking control of your own reactions. When someone treats you unfairly, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" Maybe they are teaching you patience. Maybe they are helping you develop emotional resilience. Maybe they are showing you the type of person you never want to become. But in every case, there is something to be learned. This mindset shift is life-changing. Suddenly, nothing is wasted. Every mistake, every conflict, and every disappointment becomes fuel for growth. The next time you encounter a difficult person, don't see them as a source of frustration. See them as a lesson in disguise. Because when you start seeing everyone as a teacher, you stop being a victim of circumstance and start becoming the master of your own life. Building an unshakable ethical code. The power of living with integrity. In 1998, a young boxer named Floyd Mayweather Jr. was on the verge of his first world title fight. He had talent, speed, and discipline, but there was something else that made him different. his unwavering commitment to fair play and hard work. While other fighters sought shortcuts, using performance-enhancing drugs, fixing fights, or engaging in shady deals, Mayweather remained relentless in his training, refusing to compromise his ethics. He later said, "Hard work, dedication, and staying true to yourself will take you further than any shortcut ever will." Today, he is one of the greatest boxers in history, not just because of his skill, but because of his discipline and integrity. Integrity isn't just about avoiding scandals. It's about who you are when no one is watching. Buddhism teaches that living with integrity isn't for the approval of others, it's for the peace of your own mind. The Buddha once said, "Better to fail with honor than succeed by fraud." No matter how much success, money, or recognition someone gains, if it comes at the cost of their ethics, they will never truly be at peace. Because deep down, we always know when we've compromised our values. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort that comes from acting against our values. Dr. Leon Festinger, a leading psychologist, found that when people make unethical choices, their minds struggle to reconcile the contradiction. This is why those who consistently act against their own moral code often feel restless, anxious, or even depressed. Integrity isn't just about how others see you. It's about how you see yourself. When your actions align with your principles, you experience a deep, unshakable sense of peace and confidence. One of the most powerful examples of this is Nelson Mandela. After spending 27 years in prison, he had every reason to seek revenge on those who had wronged him. But instead, he chose forgiveness. He once said, "I have walked that long road to freedom. I have made missteps along the way. But I have discovered the secret that after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb." He refused to abandon his ethical code, even when it would have been easier to do so. And because of that, he changed the course of history. Integrity is not tested in easy moments. It is tested when doing the right thing is inconvenient. It's easy to be honest when there are no consequences. It's easy to be kind when everyone is watching. But what about when no one will know? What about when lying, cheating, or cutting corners could get you ahead? That's when your ethical code matters most. In psychology, this is known as the moral muscle theory. Just like a muscle, integrity grows stronger the more you exercise it. Small, consistent choices to do the right thing, even when it's inconvenient, build the habit of integrity, making it easier to stay true to your values in bigger moments. A practical way to strengthen integrity is the legacy test. Before making a decision, ask yourself, if my grandchildren heard about this choice, would I be proud to tell them? This simple question shifts your perspective, helping you make decisions based on long-term integrity rather than short-term gain. A modern example of this principle in action is Warren Buffett. Despite being one of the wealthiest men in the world, he has built his empire on a foundation of honesty and ethical decision-making. He famously avoids shady business deals, refuses to invest in companies that engage in deception, and has always been upfront about his mistakes. He once said, "It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things differently." At the end of the day, an unshakable ethical code isn't just about how the world sees you. It's about how you see yourself. When you live with integrity, you walk through life with confidence, knowing you have nothing to hide. You build relationships based on trust. You make decisions with clarity. You create a life that is not just successful, but deeply fulfilling. The next time you face a moral dilemma, pause. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be? Because the answer to that question will define not just your choices, but your entire future. Living in harmony with nature, flowing with life's changes. In 2011, Japan was struck by one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded. It triggered a massive tsunami that devastated entire cities. But amid the destruction, one incredible observation stood out. Centuries-old temples and traditional wooden houses had remained standing, while many modern concrete buildings crumbled. The secret: these ancient structures were designed to bend with the forces of nature, rather than resist them. Their builders understood a fundamental truth: when you fight against the natural flow of life, you break. But when you learn to adapt and move with it, you survive and even thrive. Nature has always been the greatest teacher of resilience. A river never fights against the rocks in its path, it simply flows around them. Trees don't resist the wind, they sway with it. Yet, as humans, we often struggle against the inevitable changes of life. We resist uncertainty, we cling to control, and we fear transitions. But just like nature, the key to peace is not in fighting change, but in learning how to move with it. Buddhism has taught this lesson for centuries. The Buddha once said, "Just as a snake sheds its skin, we must shed our past over and over again." This means that life is not meant to be static. Everything around us, our relationships, our careers, our emotions, is in a constant state of movement. The more we try to hold on to what is impermanent, the more we suffer. But when we accept the natural flow of life, we free ourselves from unnecessary pain. Science confirms this idea. Research in psychological flexibility, a concept studied by Dr. Stephen Hayes, shows that people who can adapt to change experience lower stress levels and higher life satisfaction. Those who resist change, on the other hand, are more likely to struggle with anxiety and depression. This is because our suffering often doesn't come from change itself, but from our resistance to it. When we let go of the need for control, we find peace. One of the most powerful ways to practice this is the river mindset, the idea that life is like a flowing stream, constantly moving forward. If you try to grab onto the water, you'll only create tension. But if you relax and trust the current, you'll move effortlessly with it. This doesn't mean you shouldn't have goals or ambitions. It means that, like a river, you flow toward your destination while adjusting to the obstacles along the way. A modern example of this philosophy in action is Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. When he started his company, his vision was simply to sell books online. But as technology evolved, he adapted. He expanded into electronics, cloud computing, and artificial intelligence, allowing Amazon to grow into one of the biggest companies in the world. He once said, "Be stubborn on vision, but flexible on details." This is the essence of living in harmony with nature, having a direction, but being adaptable enough to embrace change. Nature also teaches us patience. A seed doesn't become a tree overnight. The seasons don't rush their cycle. Yet, in modern society, we demand instant results. We want success without struggle, progress without patience. But the most profound things in life, wisdom, mastery, deep relationships, all take time. The Japanese concept of wabi-sabi, which embraces the beauty of imperfection and impermanence, teaches us that things unfold in their own time. When we stop forcing and start allowing, life feels lighter. A practical way to cultivate this mindset is the letting go practice. Each morning, take a deep breath and remind yourself, "I release the need to control everything. I trust the natural flow of life." This simple practice rewires the brain, reducing stress and increasing emotional resilience. At the end of the day, nature is always speaking to us. It teaches us to let go like autumn leaves, to bloom when the time is right, and to embrace every storm as part of our growth. The next time life feels uncertain, pause. Look at the river. Feel the wind. Watch the trees. They are not worried about the future. They are simply being. And in that, they show us the path to true peace. Weaponizing gratitude, the key to relentless positivity. In 2012, an aspiring young actor in Hollywood found himself broke, struggling, and nearly homeless. He worked as a janitor, slept in a tiny apartment he could barely afford, and was rejected from every audition he went to. But instead of giving up, he did something unusual. He wrote himself a check for $10 million, dated it for 10 years in the future, and wrote in the memo line, "For acting services rendered." He kept it in his wallet and looked at it every day, using it as a reminder to be grateful for the journey, even when things were tough. That actor was Jim Carrey, and 10 years later, he received a movie deal for Dumb and Dumber, paying him exactly $10 million. Gratitude is not just about being thankful for what you have. It's about believing in what is yet to come. Buddhism teaches that gratitude is a way of seeing the world, not as a place of scarcity, but as a place of infinite possibility. The Buddha once said, "You have no cause for anything but gratitude and joy." This means that even in our struggles, there is always something to appreciate. The more we focus on what we already have, the more life gives us to be grateful for. Science backs this up. Dr. Robert Emmons, the world's leading researcher on gratitude, found that people who consistently practice gratitude have lower levels of stress, better sleep, and a stronger immune system. His studies show that gratitude physically rewires the brain, shifting focus away from fear and negativity toward optimism and resilience. In other words, gratitude doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how your brain works. One of the most powerful ways to turn gratitude into a weapon against negativity is the gratitude reframe. Whenever something difficult happens, ask yourself, how is this serving me? It doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending challenges don't exist. It means choosing to find meaning in them. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychologist, once said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." He believed that even in the darkest moments, we can choose to find purpose. This mindset is used by some of the most successful people in the world. Oprah Winfrey, one of the most influential figures in media, credits gratitude as the foundation of her success. She once said, "The more you praise and celebrate your life, the more there is in life to celebrate." She made gratitude journaling a daily habit, and it became one of the key practices that helped her rise from poverty to global influence. Another powerful technique to cultivate relentless positivity is the 3 blessings rule. Every night before bed, write down 3 things that went well that day, no matter how small. It could be as simple as a smile from a stranger, the taste of your morning coffee, or a moment of peace in your busy schedule. This simple practice has been shown to increase happiness levels by up to 25% in just a few weeks, proving that gratitude is a muscle that gets stronger with use. The key to making gratitude powerful is consistency. It's easy to be grateful when life is going well, but the real test is whether you can practice it when things fall apart. The next time you face a challenge, try this. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" Instead of focusing on what's missing, focus on what remains. Instead of giving power to what's wrong, give power to what's still right. Because gratitude is more than just a nice feeling. It is a strategy, a mindset, and, when mastered, an unstoppable force. At the end of the day, life will always have struggles. There will always be stress, setbacks, and unexpected challenges. But if you train yourself to find the good no matter what, you become untouchable. You rise above negativity. You move forward with strength. And most importantly, you create a life that is not just successful, but deeply fulfilling. Because the truth is, happiness isn't about having more. It's about appreciating what you already have. And once you understand that, there is nothing that life can throw at you that you cannot handle. Conclusion: walking the path of strength and peace. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, open field as the sun rises. The past is behind you, the future is unknown, and all you have is this moment, the present. This is where your journey truly begins. Over the past lessons, we've explored how to build resilience, let go of negativity, master emotional detachment, live with integrity, and embrace gratitude. But knowledge alone is not enough. What truly matters is how you apply it. The Buddha once said, "A jug fills drop by drop." Strength, peace, and wisdom are not things you attain overnight. They are things you cultivate through daily choices. Choosing patience over frustration, growth over stagnation, presence over distraction. Every small choice strengthens your foundation. And just like a tree deeply rooted in the ground, the stronger your foundation, the less the storms of life can shake you. One of the most powerful lessons we've uncovered is that you have control over your inner world. You may not be able to control what happens around you, but you can control how you respond. You can choose to detach from negativity, to see obstacles as teachers, to practice gratitude even in the face of hardship. And when you do, nothing, no setback, no insult, no fear can take away your peace. Science has shown that the human brain is remarkably adaptable. The more you train your mind to focus on wisdom, to embrace challenges as lessons, and to cultivate gratitude, the more natural these states of mind become. Just like a muscle that grows stronger with exercise, resilience and inner peace are built through practice. There will be days when you forget, when frustration creeps in, when doubt whispers in your ear. That's okay. What matters is that you always return to the path. Even the greatest teachers have had moments of doubt, but they did not let those moments define them, and neither should you. Consider this. If you were planting a tree, you wouldn't expect it to grow instantly. You would water it, nourish it, give it sunlight, and have patience as its roots take hold. Your inner peace is the same. It needs care. It needs patience. It needs commitment. Every time you choose mindfulness, every time you choose kindness, every time you choose to rise above negativity, you are strengthening that tree, making it unshakable. True strength is not about overpowering life. It's about moving with it, like a tree bending in the wind without breaking, like a river flowing around obstacles without stopping, like the sun rising each morning no matter how dark the night before was. This is the essence of walking the path of wisdom. And now, as this lesson comes to an end, your journey continues. This is just the beginning. There is so much more wisdom to explore, so many more insights to uncover. If this message resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because the world doesn't just need more knowledge, it needs more people who live by it. And if you're ready to continue this journey, make sure you stay connected. There's always another lesson waiting, another perspective to discover. So keep going, keep learning, keep growing. Thank you for being part of this journey. Now, go forward with courage, clarity, and peace.